on the Womenpreneurs Radio Network. I'm your host, Annette Moss, and joining me today is Sherrell T Martin. She's the owner and CEO of Empowered to Thrive, LLC, and an award-nominated financial consultant. Now, through financial management and business consulting, she helps coaches, other consultants, and direct sales leaders manage the financial health of their businesses so they can increase their bottom line and thrive. After working in public accounting for 12 years and in corporate America for 3, she decided to step out on faith and become an entrepreneur. She believes everyone should not only dare to dream, but they should go after their dreams and do whatever they love to do. And hey, why not be financially successful at it too? Using her financially thriving signature cash flow management system, she helps her clients organize, direct, and control the financial aspects of their businesses using services such as virtual accounting and business development workshops. This priority system was designed to help prevent others from making those everyday financial mistakes that ultimately cause businesses to fail. Now, I'm going to let Sherrell tell you guys more about where you can find her later on in the show, but I'd like to go ahead and just welcome her to our show. She has a wealth of knowledge that I'm sure will definitely help new and existing business owners. So welcome to our show today, Sherrell. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Well, I tell you, I get so excited sometimes during my intros and bios as I read over the information that you guys have. I'm smiling. I'm sure you can hear that through this call here. I smile and I get a little giddy about having people such as yourself on our show because we need a checkup from the neck up as it pertains to finances, not just as business owners, but this part here will help us as just personally as individuals. So I'm excited to have you here on our show today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Now, our topic today is Boost Your Profits, 6 Secrets to Creating a Profit-Producing Bottom Line. I'm going to dig deep and ask you some key questions as it pertains to that one word that stands out, I believe, in that, the title of our topic. And that word is boosting. What do you mean by boosting your profits?
Well, when I say boosting your profits, I mean basically simply increasing your bottom line so that your business can experience growth. Increasing your bottom line by increasing your bank balance. A lot of times small business owners want to show a loss. They don't want to show a profit because they don't want to have to pay Uncle Sam. But there are other ways that you can avoid paying taxes other than making your business show a loss, because being profitable, they think that being profitable equates to only paying taxes. And you can most certainly increase your profits in more ways than just, increasing your sales. And that's what I want people to know, that sales is not the only way to boost your profit. And one thing that I'm really passionate about is supporting my clients and helping them to increase their profits, because we're all in the business to make money, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes business owners, they forget that little piece of it because they're thinking about the tax piece of it, when at the end of the day, the goal was to build a successfully growing business.
And like you mentioned earlier, after all, we did go into business to profit. So
definitely,
to report it as a loss, there's life, power, and death in the tongue. And when we speak certain things or we operate a certain way around our business, I wouldn't want to be that person. I'm all for profits.
Yes, me too.
So now, on that note, that word profit, can you explain to our listening audience what exactly it is that you mean about profits? What do you really mean as it pertains to that word profit? You mentioned that a lot of us like to report a loss, but define profitability or profit to our listening audience.
Sure. So being profitable in the financial world means that you experience a positive gain. Your actual income exceeds your expenses. And when I say actual, I don't mean cash. And that's what most business owners equate profit to. They equate it to cash. And I think that's why they struggle, because profit does not mean cash. Profit has to do with your sales. And that's just a that's just the educational thing. And a lot of business owners, they get worried about the taxes, so they don't want to show the profit because they don't want to pay taxes, and it's a false sense of doing business. What they're really looking at is cash when they should be looking at profit, true profit.
Well, now, being in business, the length of time that I've been in business and dealing with people on that topic, profit-wise, and when we first sit down and we meet and we talk about understanding that ideal client and how to search and find them, demographics and, psychographics and all of these key elements, that one piece that's in there still deals with the financial piece, that money piece. The people that you look for that you would like to be your clients, the amount of money that you want them to make. And it's funny to me, people struggle with that word profit. They struggle with the word cash. They struggle with anyone thinking that they're just trying to get rich, but yet you're in business to make money. And I often wonder, are they paying attention to the words that they're using? And the fact that what's very much clear to me, Sherrell, is that they don't understand the language. They don't understand the language of business and money and profitable piece. That word is something that we need true clarity on. And I think more so you need peace and clear understanding as well to know, again, as you mentioned, so that we won't mix it up. We won't be confused about the issue. Now, there are businesses out there who are very profitable, and I'm sure you run into them, and that's a good thing. Yet they still experience that one thing that most of us right now as small business owners, or a lot of us, I don't want to say most, we struggle with that thing called cash flow. We have a lot of cash flow problems. Is there any way, Sherrell, that we can identify those problems before they actually happen?
Definitely. And so I've been in business, and I've been working with small businesses for over 17 years, and what I found is that every company that I come across experiences the same struggles for the same reasons. And there are 5 that I think actually stand out the most. And when you look at your business and you look at the way that you do business, these 5 signs can tell you about right before or, early on if you're in the process of about to have cash flow problems. And one of those signs is it's uncontrolled spending. They're one of the things that I absolutely don't like is debit cards for business owners because they get really careless with it and they're spending and they're swiping and it's like, I can just use this card, and they're mixing their monies. Spending money when they really don't have any money, banking on deposits coming in or payments from customers coming in and not really being responsible about it. Another sign of that, and that leads to the other sign which is not having a good policy on collecting your payments. They're letting customers dictate when and how they should get paid. I have a client who I have a policy where I accept credit card and debit payments for services under a certain dollar amount, and that I don't accept checks. And he goes through the contract, we're going through the contract, and he kind of like draws a line through it. Like, this is my business. You can't dictate how I receive payments. You can ask me, but you can't arbitrarily just say, I'm not going to pay you, and can I pay you this way instead of that way? He wants to pay twice a month versus once a month. Now, if you ask me and I choose to accept that, that's one thing. But for you to arbitrarily dictate that is another thing. And a lot of small business owners, they get in that space of, just trying to get a client, trying to get the money, trying to keep the client, that they don't hold true to the policies that they set in place. And a third sign is, trying to, I call it jumping the gun on making payments. So they're trying to pay off things early or in advance, thinking ahead, let me just pay off this debt now, and then it's over with. Well, when you're dealing with cash flow, that's not always the best solution. Sometimes the payment plan is the better option because that's not the only thing you have to pay. You have other expenses, other bills to keep the doors open, to keep the lights on that you have to consider, employees to pay. But if you take one swoop and pay out a bill without factoring in everything else that's coming down the line, you can kind of put yourself in jeopardy. And it's just like anything. When you're in a hole, it's harder to dig out than it was for you to get down into it.
I agree with you.
And a fourth sign is most business owners, they don't know their break-even point. And this is just not knowing how much it costs to run your business, period. Not knowing what that profitability point is. At some point, you're paying out expenses. You've generated enough revenue that if you don't get any more sales, you can pay for expenses for the rest of the year. What is that point? What is that number? Because anything above that number is profit. It's pure profit. But most business owners have no idea what that number is and or how to calculate it. And then that leads to poor cost analysis, because they don't know how much it costs to run their business. They don't know how to analyze it. They don't know how to cut costs. They don't know, it's all about financial literacy at the end of the day. Like you mentioned before, it's just not knowing terminology, not knowing how to calculate things, and being afraid to ask, not wanting to ask, hiding from it, It's not as bad as it seems. It's really not, I promise.
Yeah, I know you promised, but I can tell you, I can imagine the questions that we'll get from that because you're like, she makes it easier. So that's more easier said than done, but she just doesn't understand, And by the way, what do you mean by break even? I know that's what they're going to ask. So since we're at that point, I'd really like you to kind of expand a little bit more on that break even point. Give a little bit more clarity. Clear us up a little bit here.
Sure. So a break even point is probably one of the most important numbers that you need to know in your business. Because, like I said, it's the point at which you actually literally in those words break even. It's the point where your revenues equal your revenues equal your expenses, and you can calculate it in a bunch of different ways. You can break it down into very fine detail because it's simply how much does it cost to keep your doors open. Excuse me. When you think about if you relate it to a job, if you have a job, you know how much money you need to make in order to pay your mortgage, to pay your utilities, to pay for child care, to pay for autos and insurance. You know how much money you and your spouse, if there's a spouse, need to make to maintain that household. It's the same in a business. Your business is your household. You need to know how much income minimally you need to make in order to pay for everything in that household. And you can break it down into, I like to tell people to break it down by month because when you say it for a year, it seems like such a large number. They're like, oh, my gosh, I can't possibly make $500,000. Well, you're already at $4. So what do you mean? You can do it. But if you break it down into months, maybe you only need $40,000 or $50,000 or $60,000 per month, and then you break it even further down into customers, it makes it so much more attainable and realistic. You can touch it then. But, that's a lot of things when it comes to figuring out what you need to know and do about your business. When you look at it at that higher level, it's harder to see it. But if you bring it down to something that's more touchable, oh, that's just 3 clients a month. I can do that. It kind of makes more sense that way.
I tell you, I'm kind of, I'm excited about just this point, this piece of the puzzle that you're explaining to the listening audience because I was met with a lot of resistance in the coaching portion or consulting portion of my business when I spoke with not just new but existing business owners, as it pertains to this topic. I know it all too well, because I struggled with it. And I'm still, dealing and addressing those issues and backwards planning and straightening it all up. And, I'm amazed with how many people fight this. They resist this. I put it in the very beginning part of the structure of me strategizing and coaching with you. We talk about making friends with your money. Because you need to know it.
I like that. Making friends with it. I like that.
You need that clarity. You need that understanding. You need to know how much money you need to make on a monthly basis. If not, you're really operating more so on a hobby basis. And I can remember dealing with my husband on that level. Is this a hobby or is this business? You need to get
Mhm.
serious.
Mhm.
Show me the
Definitely,
money.
definitely.
I was just broken down. So. Now, those 5 signs that you share with us, are they also
Mhm.
because of people having that cash flow problem?
Not particularly. Sometimes maybe, but for the most part, those signs are the actual results of the causes. The causes are things like poor internal controls. Like I said, you don't have the policy in place for your services or for how you operate your business. And people always think policies and procedures when it comes to finances, they think it's just all about having something in place to prevent theft. But it's not. It's also about how you're going to maintain your financial records, how you're going to keep track of everything, how you're going to track or what's your process for money coming in the door and money going out the door. That's all a part of your controls. It's not just about theft and fraud. And so that typically leads to, if you don't have the policy in place, then you can't enforce it to that customer who wants to dictate how they pay you. If you have it in place and then you enforce it, then they can't dictate to you. Another cause is unnecessary costs. That leads to the unnecessary cost leads to the uncontrolled spending that I mentioned. And when I say unnecessary costs, I mean, spending money on not having a budget or having a budget and not following the budget.
Yeah.
That's always a big one.
Yes.
Spending your personal money out of your business account out of convenience, just because you don't want to go to the bank and make the deposit. And now that I'm a small business owner, I get that. When I worked at a CPA firm, I never could understand it. I would always be like, stop doing this. Stop putting your personal expenses in this business account. You have a personal bank account. Use it. And I could never understand why they could not stop doing it. But when I started my business, it came obviously clear to me. It's out of pure convenience because that's where the money is. So why go to the bank, write a check or take a withdrawal, and then go drive 10 minutes away and go to another bank where you could just swipe your card or write the check right there on the spot out of the business account. So it's spending your personal money out of your business account or spending money when there is no money. QuickBooks says that I have a negative balance, but the bank says I have a positive balance. So, you don't have the money because your QuickBooks just told you that you've already overspent. So why still write a check if you know the money, if you know it's going to bounce? You already know. It's things like that, and it just drives me insane. And I'm like, you have to be responsible about it. You can't just go half off willy-nilly wanting to do whatever you want. I always tell one of my things that I say is that it is your business, and you can do what you want, and you can charge what you want, and you can pay for anything that you want. But just because you can does not mean you should. You just shouldn't. And that's like one of the biggest, I don't want to say breaking points, but one of the biggest clogs or blocks or bottlenecks with small business owners is that they have the hardest time, separating their personal from their business, their personal feelings, their personal emotions, their personal monies. They have a hard time separating it from the business. You have to look at it as a totally separate entity, which it is by IRS standards. It is a separate entity if you're set up properly. So you have to think of it that way. You have to separate yourself personally, or you will bring it down. And, that's like, again, we don't set up a business and go through all this to fail. That's not why we do it. We want to succeed. And so one of the things that I'm passionate about is making sure that businesses succeed, because I've seen far too often where they don't succeed. And it's all due to just poor understanding, poor lack of knowledge, just not really knowing what to do or being guided in the right direction.
Now, you said several things in there that you will see me quote and give you your due diligence and source you, because they just kind of really, they're true touch points. Now, with all of these tips that you just shared with us, how do we keep more money in our business using these tips?
So when you go through the process of educating yourself and looking at the things that I've already mentioned, looking at your numbers, understanding where you're spending your money, looking at how to stop it, you begin to see, I call them financial vampires. And they're just like little blood-sucking things. They're just sucking all of the cash out of your business right out the door. When you start to look at your business as a separate entity and you separate yourself from it, all of these things come to light. You begin to pay more attention to things. You notice what's going on in your business. And you get to eventually, hopefully, you get to the point where you stop trying to hide. Don't hide from it. Don't brush it under the rug, because you can't keep money in your business if you're ignoring all of the signs. If you're not paying attention to it, then you won't see it. But the tips to keep the money in your business is to get a handle on each and every one of those areas. And there's more. It's not just those 5. There's many, many more. But putting a process in place, establishing a system, finding a trusted person that you can help you, can assist you, an expert in the industry, will help you get a handle on all of those things. And once you do, one by one, you'll see the increases in your bottom line. You'll see the increases in your cash flow. All of a sudden, you're not in the red, you're in the black. Just a little bit. And then as time goes on with each month, that number gets bigger and bigger. But it's just really taking the responsibility and paying attention to your numbers. That's one of my tweet hashtags is know your numbers. Know your numbers. If you know your numbers and you pay attention to it, it's really just that simple. It really is just that simple.
Well, I've got another question for you, and I'm sure, you've probably been faced with this so much. You give out these tips, you help guide them, you meet the resistance, I'm sure, with people like myself and others when it comes to this money thing for business. But I know the one thing that we get a little confused on, and that's that implementation process. I mean, you told us all these things, but how can we implement one or more of these types of tips, in a way that it can help us make a difference in our business?
Implementation is, and it's with any and everything we do. We go out, we get excited, we find out what we need to, and then we stop. Implementation is simply the act of doing. Just do it. Just take that first baby step, and I'm going to call it a baby step because most people don't like finances. They don't want to touch it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to breathe it. Take the step. Get serious about it. Educate yourself and actually do it. Stop mixing the money. Stop swiping the debit card. Get educated. Take classes, which is, take some classes, get some training, and just do it. And it doesn't matter, what kind of business you're in, because this problems are the same across the board. There's certain times where it may be a little specific, but the problem is the same across the board. And it happens in every business at some point in time. But you have to pay attention to the details. You have to look at it. You have to know what's going on in your business in order to implement it. And it all starts with just writing down what your system is. That's one of my things that I always tell clients. Okay, so once we get everything cleaned up, let's look at how you do things. Because I can't help you fix it if I don't know how you do it. So we just write down what you do. Write down your processes, your operating procedures, or SOPs, or whatever you want to call them. Write them down. And then once we write them down, a lot of times when you're writing them down, you see what you're doing wrong. It makes it so obvious. It's just like when you're thinking something, when you say it out loud, you're like, oh, now it makes sense. It's the same thing. Once you write down the process, you will see where you particularly are making the mistake. And then we work with how to figure out how to fix it. You do it step by step, one by one. But you got to start with a system. You have to have a system in place.
Now, talking about systems, earlier at the beginning of our show, I read in your bio that you have this proprietary system that you use called the Financially Thriving Signature Cash Flow Management System. Can you tell us about that a little bit more? Because I'm sure people are wondering how they can kind of dive into this, if this is a home-based type study on your own system, or is it something that you would hold our hands with?
As of right now, it is something that I hold your hands with. It is kind of the process that I follow when I work with my clients. I am looking into creating it into an actual home study product. I'm a little torn by if I should or not because it's finances, and a lot of times people don't want to do that. They don't want to do it. And so I'm like, I don't know if it would be something that people would actually take the time and spend to do it versus offering it in a workshop type setting. May be the better option for it. So I'm still kind of working out the kinks on that. But in the meantime, it's just the system that I follow when I work with my clients. And it starts with, educating them on business, making them business finance savvy, giving them the tools that they need, the foundation, setting the foundation that needs to be set for them to understand why it's so important, why you need to do it, what certain financial terms mean in your business, because that's usually where, like I said, that's where it all starts, is not knowing. Between not knowing and being too personally tied up into it is what causes everything. And then from there we identify what your leaks are, what's causing all the issues, understand the flow of how things are going to do, and create your system and create your process. And then we figure out how we're going to make it work, how we're going to implement these strategies, coming up with different strategies that you're missing or need to have in place in order to take your business to that thriving level. And then I teach you how to maintain it, whether you do it, whether I do it, whether somebody else does it. But the whole thing about, like I said, is that once you go through the process, if you don't keep doing it, then what's the point?
Yeah, it's a waste of time then. It doesn't make sense. So, Sherrell, what's next for you? I mean, you have such the nugget that we need in business, and I'm sure people are wondering, or saying in their mind, I've got to get with her. What is she doing? Do you have any upcoming workshops that we may need to get involved in? Heck, I would have to fly here from out of Atlanta that way to see you. But I do have a brother out in the D.C. area that would be worth the travel. But I know they're wondering, what's next for you? Do you have any upcoming conferences, workshops, or seminars?
I am planning my next workshops, and actually right now I'm doing them as webinars, so you can do them from wherever you are. I just did one I guess a couple weeks ago around cash flow, just 4 simple strategies on how to keep more money in your business, and it went pretty good. So I'm trying to decide if I want to do that one again for those who missed it, or if I want to, give a different viewpoint or a different take, or if I want to touch on budgeting, or, just basic financial knowledge, the terminology thing, educating on that. So I do have some in the works. They aren't quite scheduled yet, but I do plan to do at least 2 or 3 during the summer, not too many, because I want to also, I want people to enjoy the summer. That's kind of like with school, regular school. You want the summer off. You want to take a break. So, but I do plan on doing at least 2 or 3 this summer, just trying to figure out what topics I want them to be on.
Well, I appreciate you for that, but I tell you this, I understand having that breaking point, that time off, the relaxation time, but when you have that much resting time when you're in business, I have to wonder. We gotta, let me tell you.
The whole summer off.
Not take the whole summer. Because let me tell you, you should always be in a learning mode when it comes to business.
Yes.
You have to be. You have to continually educate yourself. And you have to know that if you feel like you've arrived, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're in real
I agree.
trouble.
I agree. And that's why that's one of the first things, that's the first step in my system it's just the education. Well, it's probably the second. But the first one is we actually get your books together before we do anything. But then, we look at how you're doing business, and I educate you on what's wrong, the foundation that you should have, and whether you have it or not, and why it's important. And that's why I start with that, because I also start with that because if I throw it at the end, I'm going to lose them, because at that point they're already having the success, so they won't pay it any mind. But if you teach it up front, they still have more to look forward to. But you're so correct. It's a constant learning, especially when you're in business. That's probably one of the biggest things that has benefited me, is that I just keep reading and I keep educating myself, because it doesn't just stop. You don't just say, oh, I'm going to open a business and then stop learning. No, that doesn't work.
Well, I tell you, I'm excited about having you here. I'm smiling again, and I think I say that quite often on most of my shows because I'm just so amazed with the knowledge that we have here that comes to our radio show here. There's no reason to say that you didn't know at this point. There's no reason to say if you even if you find out that you didn't know, that you don't have the resources and the help. And I'm so grateful to you for coming on, and I know that I need your help. Boy, this is going to be kind of an open case study. Would be really, really crazy. This is like, oh boy, I'm just so messed up here. But you know, I welcome it again because you have to be open and willing to address those issues so that you can move forward and operate in success. And you know, I'm from the background. I want to be blessed to bless others, and in order for me to do that, I got to get real. And that's what I'm encouraging all of our listening audiences to do. Get real about your numbers. Make friends with it. If you don't understand it, hey, go hire Sherrell. She'll help you get it all together.
I sure will.
Now, Sherrell, can you tell our listening audience where they can find you, give them your website and so forth, and where we can connect with you out there on the social media world?
Sure. So my website is www.empower2thrive.com, and that's the number 2. And it's empower, like empowerment, empower. I have to say that because apparently I have a slight accent. So it's empower2thrive.com. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. Everything is at Empower2Thrive. I'm on Pinterest. So you can get me at empower2thrive.com.
Great. Well, I'm definitely going to make sure that I put this out there for people to connect with you. And I want to let everyone know that the Womenpreneurs Radio Network, it airs live every Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern, and that's 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, if you miss it, our replays and downloads are available there on the website, actually on Spreaker, or you can go to the Womenpreneurs Radio Network and click on the link, and our shows are right there for the recent shows. Now, I'm your host, Danette Moss. And I came here for one reason only, and that was to help you truly get clarity on your business and to help you take it to the next level. Now, during our show, I promise that we will provide you and offer keys to redefining your focus for maximum effectiveness, and I'm sure you guys can hear that with our show today. And we help you understand that tacit information. And this here will allow my listening audience, and I'm sure everyone else that's out there, my niche or niche, is it Sherrell? Because I keep feeling like I'm butchering you and don't want to do that.
Yes, it's Sherrell. You're fine.
I work with wifepreneurs and mompreneurs, and of course I do deal with my single savvy women in business. You know, my whole goal is to help them enter into higher and higher realms of achievement, and the only way that they can do that is by utilizing this insider's information, such as what you just shared with us, to help them reach that maximum success. You know, I sometimes term it as success secrets, but you've taken it out of the secret realm and you're yelling at us in a good, positive way to help us get our acts together. So we bring one-to-one conversations such as this to our show, and we present highly accomplished, remarkably successful entrepreneurs and business professionals and leaders in their field to our show to help you do exactly what you went into business hopefully for, and that is to make the money. I mean, let's be real. You want to be successful. So you can reach us here or connect with us here every Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. And I'm just excited about this journey and educating people, sitting down and speaking with people such as Sherrell, and helping us all get to that next level in business. Now, I'd also like to share and tell you guys where else you can find me. Again, I mentioned my name is Danette Moss, and I'm the host here at the Womenpreneurs Radio Network, but I'm also a host of another radio show called Let's Talk Strategies. I'm passionate about strategy sessions with the people that I deal with and helping them really shake off those things that really don't fit in their business and help them actively move forward in business so that they can truly be successful in business. So you can find me over there at letstalkstrategies.com and Sherrell, I'm excited also about my new women's association that I started, and that's called the Association for Women Entrepreneurs. And we do have open enrollment. We do have free spots available as well because we don't want to leave anyone out, where you guys can get in there and get information and read our blogs and just kind of get updated on things that, that you'll need to move forward. I love the association for one reason that I started it for was because I could not find an association that dealt with people like myself, being that wifepreneur, that mompreneur. And you hear that term, Sherrell, wife and mom?
Mhm.
So, I'm busy. I'm busy 24/7. Who can I get with to help teach me these things, or can I get into it later on in the evening because I'm ripping and running. I'm running my business. I'm at the school with the kids. I'm at track meets and so forth. So I started this association and the radio show and decided to launch this one and more so in the evening hours for that reason, so that we can provide that type of coaching and resources for that wife and mompreneur. The children are asleep. Hubby's been taken care of. Everyone's eating dinner. And all of that, and with all of these, our busy schedule, I said, whether you be a soccer mom, you're carpooling after school and so forth, it doesn't matter. You still, too, can really run a successful business, but you need these tools in order to do it. And I'm just excited to have Sherrell here to help us educate you guys and to provide these tools. For now, guys, I have to let Sherrell go so that she can go ahead and finish taking care of what she does best, and that's educate us. Sherrell, thanks again for stopping by our show here, and I'm looking forward to having you back soon.
Thank you. I'm so glad that I did this. I'm glad that you allowed me to come on and share the information. And, yes, I would definitely come back.
Great, great, great. All right, make it a great day. Speak with you guys soon. Take care.